Hey everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about your final paper for this semester. So we're going to be looking at trying to recreate our own satire paper based on the style of A Modest Proposal. So we spent the last several days reading A Modest Proposal and answering some questions on it and discussing it. And now I want to see what you can do based on creating your own stylized version of it. So, based on what you know about writing papers, based on what you know about copying style, based on what you know about satire, and based on what you know about A Modest Proposal, all those things that we've talked about this semester, I want to see you put them all together and write a cohesive paper. So, let's talk about some of the bare bones. We're going to be writing this in class, and you're going to have some time to do this. You're going to have, I'll specify the time in class, how much time you'll have to do it, but you'll have a while. You'll have plenty of time. And I want to see at least 3 pages. Okay? Now, if you look at this document on the screen, which I've shared with you, it's a 7-paragraph paper, minimum of 3 pages. MLA format, Times New Roman, double spaced, 12-point font. You all know the drill by now. So let's break this down. So, in talking in general terms about his essay, A Modest Proposal was many things. It was disturbing, it was over the top, it was pretentious, it was all of those things and more. And if you were in on the joke, kind of funny too, in a very twisted, dark sort of way. So, this idea of him suggesting that Ireland fix all of their problems by eating their babies was done on purpose. It was done over the top. He was not meaning it seriously, but he wanted to come across seriously enough to make the people reading it question whether or not he's insane or if he legitimately meant it. So he would do things to make it seem as if you weren't in on the joke necessarily. You wouldn't necessarily understand if he was serious or not, which made it all that much more dark. And remember, the whole point of a satire is to poke fun at a serious problem, but to do so in such an over the top, mean sort of way that it shocks the reader into recognizing that the problem actually exists and that maybe they should get off their butts and do something about it. So that's what he does. And so let me break this down real quick. He's going to use a lot of big words. So you want to use a lot of big words. He's going to use a lot of long-winded sentences. So you want to use a lot of long-winded sentences. So break out that thesaurus and put on your thinking caps. So the paragraphs. You're going to start by brainstorming an idea. You're going to brainstorm a problem that you think exists in your community. Now, I don't care if you want to go local and say that, you want to fix a problem in our school system or in your city or the state of Texas or, whatever, or even nationally or even globally. Think big, think small, I don't care, but pick a problem and you're going to have to think of an audience. Remember, we talked at the beginning of this semester about purpose, audience, and tone. So pick an audience. Who would be the best person to actually do something about that problem? If you're writing about a problem in the school system, well, that would be the president or the principal or, superintendent or whatever. If you're talking about the city, maybe that's the mayor. If you're talking about the state, maybe that's the governor. If you're talking about the country, it could be the president or Congress. You decide who would be the best person to actually fix it. And maybe it's not even a political leader. Maybe it's somebody who's the CEO of a company that's causing the issue, or the head of the World Health Organization, or something like that. I don't know. You decide. That's going to be based on your problem. So you're going to want to map it out like I've got described on the screen. So paragraph 1, start by addressing the problem and outlining it for the paper. You want to pick a problem, let's say poverty, okay? And you want to call attention to the homelessness issue in the United States, or maybe even Texas, I don't know, whatever. You're going to think of 3 subtopics, 3 sub-problems that are created because of that larger issue. So what are 3 smaller problems that the issue of homelessness creates? Or maybe I'll think bigger. Maybe the issue is poverty. Okay, so maybe the issue is poverty that I want to fix or address in the United States, and the issue of poverty creates sub-problems like homelessness, people living on the streets, lack of food, lack of medical care, rise in violence and crimes, whatever. Do some brainstorming. You're going to want to address those things. So you're going to start this off, and you can start it like a letter if you want, Dear Mr. President, as you know, there's a growing issue in this country of this, this, and this. Talk about the sub-problems. Talk about the major issue. We have a problem of poverty in the United States, and it's causing this, this, and this. Okay, that's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, you're going to throw out some statistics, some facts, use hyperbole. You're going to want to exaggerate how bad the problem is. Now, here's where it gets pretty fun. You can totally make these things up. You can make these statistics up. You can use real ones. If the problem is significant enough, feel free to use real statistics. But you can feel free to fudge the numbers in your favor. Now, when I say fudge the numbers, I don't mean make your statistics outlandish. You want this to be believable. So you might say, 30% of people under the age of 40 risk or are on the verge of poverty, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe you want to bump that number up, 45%, 50%. But if you make it outlandish to the point where it's not believable, you run the risk of ruining the effect of your satire. So don't be like 95% of people are living in poverty in the United States, because that's just not true. Okay, so fudge the numbers if you want, but make them believable. So you want to exacerbate the problem. You want to talk about why, in paragraph 2, why are these things such an issue? Why is poverty such an issue? And how is it affecting those 3 things that you outlined in paragraph 1? Okay? And then at the end of paragraph 2, that's when you drop the hammer and you say, that's why I humbly propose, and keep your tone humble but intelligent. Remember, $20 words, long sentences, but a humble tone, because you want their help. So you're going to say something like, at the end of paragraph 2, you're going to say something like, and that's why I propose we arm people in poverty and disarm the 1%. Or whatever. Okay? Whatever outlandish, over-the-top solution you want to come up with. Remember that your solution needs to be crazy over the top. Like, to the point where somebody reading your paper will put it down and just look off into space thinking, oh my God, did they really just suggest that? The darker, the meaner, the better. Okay, go dark, go mean. Now, go wild with it. This is meant to shock your reader. You want to shock your reader about your proposed solution. Now, let me caution you on this. A lot of people want to say something generic like, let's just take all the poverty, the people in poverty, and just shoot them off into the sun, or, whatever. The problem with that is that wouldn't even though that's outlandish, it wouldn't actually fix the problem. If you think back to A Modest Proposal, eating the young is messed up and definitely disgusting and twisted, but in a sick sort of way, it would have actually worked. Now, it would have created a whole host of other problems, sure, but for the problem that he was suggesting, it would have done the trick. So your solution needs to be over the top, outlandish, insane, but if we were twisted enough to actually do it, it would work. Okay? So, think about that. And that also needs to be something that we could feasibly do. Okay? We don't have the resources to ship 1,000,000 people into the sun. Okay? So, think about what we actually could technically do. And think about what is like the way exaggerated form of that. Paragraphs 3, 4, and 5, you're going to take your sub-problems from paragraph 1 that you outlined, and you're going to talk about how your solution would fix each one of those. So if the problem is poverty in the United States, and I said one of my problems is a rise in crime, then paragraph 3, I'm going to talk about how my insane over-the-top solution would fix the rise in crime. In paragraph 4, I'm going to talk about how my insane over-the-top solution would fix sanitation issues. In paragraph 5, I'm going to talk about how my over-the-top insane solution would fix crowding in the streets, or whatever. Okay, whatever issues I said came with poverty. Paragraph 6, you're going to have a little fun. Paragraph 6, you're going to say something like, okay, I know what you're thinking. We can't just disarm the 1% and arm the people in poverty. And the reason we can't do that is, and then at this point you're going to insert some problem that nobody actually thought of. So, a reasonable person would look at that situation and be like, we can't arm the people in poverty and disarm the 1% because then they would just charge the 1% and kill them and steal all their stuff, and we'd have mass panic and anarchy in the streets. That would be what a reasonable person would say. You're not going to address the reasonable objections. You're going to address an objection that nobody has. So you're going to say, now I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, okay? We can't just arm millions of people in the United States. We don't have that kind of ammunition. But don't worry, I got you covered. Here's how we're going to fix that problem. We're going to open up a bunch of stores for ammunition. We're going to mass produce ammunition to help the problem. Isn't that great? Isn't that a beautiful solution? I've thought of everything. Aren't I so smart? There's that sarcasm that we talked about. So again, address a problem that nobody actually has with your solution and attack that. Solve that. Ignore the reasonable objections that people would have to your solution. Because you don't want to draw attention to the fact that what you're saying is insane. You don't want to draw attention to that. So, anyway, and then last but not least, paragraph 7, you're going to conclude it by addressing the person directly. And that's why, Mr. President, Lady Secretary, whatever, that's why I propose that we enact this immediately. It's up to you now to take the following step to put this into plan. And then tell them what that step is. And that's your paper.